Good morning, year 2. It's Mrs. Mvola here. We are going to continue to look at the human body. For the past couple of weeks, you have been looking at body parts, but today's lesson, we will move on and look at body systems. The human body has 5 body systems, but today we'll look at just 2, the skeletal system and the muscular system. The skeletal system is about the human skeleton. And the human skeleton is the inner frame of our body that is made up of bones and joints that support and protect our bodies. Before we move on with our lesson, I have 2 questions for you. Let us look at these 2 words that I've highlighted: support and protect. What do you think would happen to our body if it didn't have the support of a skeleton? And what do you think the skeleton protects? As we move on with our lesson, I want you to keep these 2 questions in mind. The skeleton bonds at joints such as knees, ankles, and even the wrist. Joints are where 2 or more bones join together. Now, I'm going to bring a picture of the human skeleton in front of you. This is what a human skeleton looks like. We now want to look at the different bones and what they are called. Let us begin at the very top, here. What do you think this is called? This is known as the skull. Now, before we proceed, I have a question for you. What do you think the skull protects? What do you think the skull protects? If you said brain, that was correct. The skull protects the brain. Let's move along. Here we find what we call a shoulder blade, but a doctor would usually refer to this as a scapula. Now here is the arm, and the arm is divided into 2, the upper arm and the lower arm. Let us look at the upper arm. This is known as the humerus. Let's look at the lower arm. As you can see, there are 2 different bones here, and I've colored them 2 different colors to help you identify them. Now, the one that is colored peach, which is this one, is known as the ulna. And the one that is colored green, which is the bigger bone, is known as a radius. Let's move on to the left side. These lines that you see along here are known as ribs. Now, the entire collection of the ribs is known as a rib cage. What do you think we call this? Any idea? This is known as a vertebra. Moving along, this is known as the pelvis. This is known as the pelvis. Now, what do you think this and this is called? Have a think, do some research. Now, let's go to what looks like a dot here. Remember, we have talked about joints, which is where 2 or more bones join together. Now, here we have the upper leg and the lower leg. These are 2 bones that are joining at the kneecap. A doctor would usually refer to this as a patella. The upper bone or the upper leg, which you would usually call the thigh, is known as a femur. Let's move to the lower leg. As you can see, there are 2 different bones. One is smaller and one is bigger. And here I've used two colors, brown for the big bone and purple for the small bone. Now, the bigger bone is known as a tibia. The purple bone is the smaller one, is known as fibula. I hope that you'll be able to identify these bones, their names, on your own.